Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back to the planet at no cost to you, and there's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement. Only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
The Bachelorette and Friends. From first love to happy ever after.
What's that?
From dating to dick pics.
Oh my. Oh no!
The Bachelorette and Friends. Oh, I love a good dick.
This podcast contains sexual references, coarse language, and adult themes from the beginning and throughout. It is not recommended for listeners under the age of 15.
If you subscribe on patreon.com/thecatchlerette you get early access to episodes, not to mention keeping the pod alive for as little as $1 a month. Subscribe now. Patreon.com/thecatchlerettepod. Hello and welcome to the Bachelorette and Friends. I'm your host, Carla Anita Matiazzo, and today's guest is a best-selling author. Her books are Make It Happen, and her latest book is Higher Love. It's in stores now. She's the podcast host of Lunar Lover and Higher Love. Welcome to the podcast, Jordanna Levin.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, Chicky Babe. It's lovely to have you.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here. I'm really excited.
Sweet. So let's start at your first crush, because that's generally where we start. And I have a feeling we're going to get really in depth in all the journeys here, because from what I understand from your podcast, listening to your podcast, reading your book, we are not surface level women. We like to delve into the depths of the world and the dwellings, which I love.
Yeah. My first crush, I have to say I crushed a lot as a child. Mm-hmm. Like the idea of romance, especially the ones I was witnessing in Disney movies and on television, was very attractive to me. And I felt myself having those in-depth adult fantasies, PG-rated adult fantasies, but adult fantasies from quite a young age. But I think my first IRL crush was a boy named Eros, which, I mean, that is the god of love.
Yeah.
She's so funny. And I can't really remember more than that about him. His mum and my mum worked together.
Right.
And they actually worked in a after school care centre. So after school, we would both be there, and we were the older kids of the crew of kids that were at the daycare centre. After school care centre. So yeah, it was a lot of flirting and a lot of just being kids. And then I ended up inviting him to my year 10 formal.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you stayed friends after primary school?
Do you know what? I don't think we did. If memory serves me correctly, I think I got to my year 10 formal and I was like, shit, I've got no one to invite. I was a bit of a late bloomer, someone who was so obsessed with romance.
Right.
I really didn't get into boys as much as I should have. And it was the year 10 formal and I was like, shit, I've got no one to invite. So I was like, what about Eros? And he came. It was very sweet.
Oh,
very
that's
sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did he know you had a crush on him when you guys were younger?
I think so, yeah. I'm pretty sure it was reciprocated. In a really...
How do you know that? What was the indicators to tell you that it was reciprocated?
I think there was lots of childhood flirting, which is, what is that even? There was definitely no touching, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
But there was lots of giggling and playing.
Oh, that's nice.
I guess. Yeah.
So
it was
what
nice.
did you learn about yourself from that first crush? Were there any, looking back now, knowing what you know now, were there any patterns that started to form from that first crush, and did they go along with any of your other crushes?
Yeah, I think that it was definitely this sense of waiting to be chosen. It's sort of like,
Ah,
you can like someone as much as you like someone, but unless they come out and say, hey, let's be boyfriend and girlfriend, then I don't really have a say in it. And I mean, that was through a very childhood lens, but that has shaped a lot of the relationships I've had.
do you think that's fucking Disney? I reckon that's Disney influence.
Oh, it's absolutely Disney. It is. It's the waiting to be chosen piece. And
Yeah.
even better yet, waiting to be chosen by someone who's so much better than you in terms of like whether it's like because he's a prince or because he's handsome or because he has lots of money or whatever it might be, Always feeling less than feeling, which in turn made me as an adult actually go for guys where I felt a little bit more successful than them. And then eventually what would happen is there'd be this really weird power dynamic and I'd get really bored because I was smarter and I was more successful and they didn't have ambition,
Yeah. Do you feel like what you just said there, the overarching word I like to use when I hear people described in that manner is lost. And before we get back onto your journey, lately there's been a couple of setups by my friends.
Yeah.
And they've been nice blokes or good guys in inverted commas. And they're triggering words for me because they never end up being. They never end up being that.
True.
And so whenever I hear someone go, oh, he's a nice guy, it's a good bloke, I'm like, oh, shit, I know. Is he? What lens are we looking at this with? And it's been interesting, the setups, and I'm trying really hard, Jordanna, not to go, oh, well, my friends actually, the ones that are setting me up, actually don't know me very well because they're setting me up with people that are not even remotely compatible. And the common theme seems to be they're lost. They don't know who they are. They like staying in their comfort zones. They haven't done any inner work on themselves.
Yeah.
And they have no passion, ambition, direction at all. And that's a fucking massive turn-off. I can't get on board. I've had a relationship with one in particular, was quite lost and liked staying in his comfort zone and just away from everyone, really antisocial, just in his own little bubble. And I can't get on board anymore. So it's interesting the way that you described those few characteristics there. That screams lost to me. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that lost boy syndrome, or Peter Pan syndrome. And I think that Peter Pan syndrome is not always about not wanting to grow up, but it's like not taking ownership and responsibility for your life and how that's coming out. And honestly, that is the least attractive thing that you could.
Oh, mate.
I don't think that's being picky or having high standards either.
No. And look, I was painted at a bitch for pointing out to my friends that suggested this human. It's interesting on this. It wasn't even a date. I didn't count it as a date, and I was very clear about that.
Not a date.
This is not a fucking date, mate. It's not a date. You've made no fucking effort. Couldn't book the venue. The venue that you suggested we go to was booked out because of COVID restrictions.
Did you ask your friend why they set you up with him? Like why they thought there was potential there?
Because he's a nice guy and
he's a good bloke.
He can, because he can hold a conversation with other people. And maybe it's my job to help him come out of his comfort zone. No, thank you.
Yeah, no thank you. No, I'm with you. I do think sometimes, though, I've had friends set me up as well. And like the only thing that I've had in common with the person they've set me up with is that we're both single. And other than that, nothing else.
Yes.
I think sometimes, and this has happened to me when I've set a friend up with another friend, is I think when you have a friendship with someone, you don't always see the qualities that wouldn't work in a relationship. You know, you're not privy to that information. So sometimes we've got to give our friends, setter-uppers, you know, a little bit of leeway there, because I think that they don't actually see the misgivings of the other person when it comes to relationship dynamics.
Yeah, look, I want to agree with you, but the most recent one, I'm just like, there was too many red flags that they knew about. Too many red flags. And look, I should have gone with my gut instinct. The first time I spoke to this bloke on the phone, I was like, yeah, we're not suited. And then the other day I was like, no, I'm trying to change my limiting outlook on stuff. I'll give him a go. And it just reminded me that I need to, if my gut is going no, then that's the right thing. The thing that was screaming at me in this meeting was when I was talking about, I think it's really healthy for people to get therapy, go seek professional help when they're struggling with things, or even just to keep, you know, the mental health in good check. And his response was,
oh God,
people that go to therapy are crazy. It is like you going to see somebody to do your tarot cards.
What?
I was like, sorry?
Oh, I would have gotten up and walked out.
Yeah. I was like, and then I said, so you've never been to therapy before? And we had a quite in-depth conversation, because I'm not good with superficial conversations. So he told me a little bit about his childhood and his 20s and whatnot. And it was very clear that there is trauma that has not been addressed. And he has not. And he admitted, I haven't done any inner work because I don't want to find what's there. And that's like a massive red flag.
Yeah.
No, thank you. No.
Because that trauma is going to surface time and time again in any relationship that he has.
Yeah.
No, thanks.
Yeah. And the fact that so I think sometimes, Jordanna, I'm too far on the other extreme coming out of a relationship. I will do so much work on myself that I will blame myself for the breakdown of the relationship. Like, I will take 100% responsibility of it. Whereas this guy was very much like, the women are the problem. And when I was like, okay, so what lessons did you learn from your relationships? And he's like, what are you talking about? Okay, what did you learn, and how would you do something different in the future to change these patterns that keep happening? He's like, I feel like I always do the right thing in relationships and do everything that I can to make them work. Well, you've showed me and you've told me by a few examples that that's not actually accurate. So,
no, I mean, Carla, it sounds like you dodged a bullet.
Oh, I did.
I feel like I couldn't let this crushes question go by without saying I had a very unmild obsession with Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, my entire bedroom was plastered with his posters. And also there was like a little section just reserved for Dawson's Creek, the cast of Dawson's Creek.
Sure.
But mostly Leo. And like through every stage of his life, I think we were only up to Titanic at about that stage. But, you know, I had Basketball Diaries. I had Critters 3, which was like some random movie he'd been in. Romeo and Juliet, you know, what else? What's Eating Gilbert Grape? I mean, obsessed. So definitely a crush.
So, okay, I want to hear your thoughts on his take on Romeo, because what did you think? What did you think of his rendition? Have you gone back and watched it as an adult?
I actually haven't watched it in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What do you think about it?
Well, I guess it's interesting once you're an adult and you're not a teenager watching two teenagers fall in love, lust, whatever.
Yeah.
But definitely as an adult watching it, cinematographer-wise, I love Baz Luhrmann. I fucking
amazing.
love him. What he does is great. But I have to say, Leonardo was too whiny for me. Looking back, I loved it when I saw it. But looking back, I'm like, oh, my God. Yeah, it was
But
too
when you
whiny.
say whiny, do you just mean like lacked a certain level of masculinity, like he was too in his femme, or do you think he was just a whinger?
I think he was just a whinger.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to have to go back and watch it.
And you can tell me, like, fuck, you're wrong, Carla. That's fine. But this is, I haven't watched it probably in like 5 years, but I was definitely like, oh, yeah, this is a different vibe.
Yeah. But I mean, like, the original Romeo, whoever that was, I wonder, do you feel like maybe he played the part differently? Maybe he was written like that.
Oh, I really liked the original film of Romeo and Juliet. I liked the Romeo in that. Interesting, isn't it? Okay, so what about Leonardo now? What are your thoughts and feelings on Leonardo now?
I love him I love his philanthropy and his activism for sure. I don't find him to be a sexy man anymore. And I'm not really down with only dating supermodels in their 20s. Yeah.
How old is he now?
Oh, he'd have to be. He was born in, I'm pretty sure he was born in 74. So 46?
Yeah.
47? Yeah. I mean, come on, Leo, grow up. Yeah. That is sort of like a lost boy who also has managed to be very successful.
Right. Correct. Yeah, I have to say, seeing him in The Wolf of Wall Street, even though I have total understanding that everyone's playing different characters when they are in blah, 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 I get that. But my school of thought and training in acting, as you can only draw on things that are already within you, you can't be a completely different person.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the training I've had when I was acting. There was something that really turned me off Leo in Wolf of Wall Street. I just couldn't get on board. There was too much. Like it was a fantastic performance, but there's something that I can't disconnect from him and that performance.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'm going back through like every movie I've ever watched, trying to disconnect the actors from the characters.
From your crushes with Eros and Leonardo.
Yeah.
Did they have any similarities, by the way, before we push on to
they actually looked really similar. And I've only just pieced that together now. Yes. They were twinsies. They were twins. I also had a crush on a guy. I think this is an important thing. I had a crush on a guy when I was in high school who turned out to be gay. And I realised that at the time, I think I knew on some level.
Yeah.
And that pattern's played out in a way, not the falling in love with gay men, but the idea of someone being unavailable and that being attractive and safe, that being safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just thought that was
really
worth it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. The unattainable, especially like because crushes generally don't eventuate to anything generally, right?
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting you say that there was a pattern there of the unattainable. It's very interesting that you say that it's safe. In what way I know what you mean, but can you unpack what you mean in regards to it being safe?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to say that it's definitely happening on a subconscious level. I'm not thinking, oh, he's unattainable, so that's safe. Because I've always, my whole life, wanted to be in relationship. So it's not that. But I think what I mean subconsciously is that if it can't actually eventuate, then all of the risks of heartbreak are cancelled out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always a risk, right? You have your heart broken once. And to be honest, I hadn't even had my heart broken then yet. But I had watched movies about heartbreak, which is just like living it and experiencing it. I know it's funny, like we laugh at it, but I think that a lot of people have lived experiences through what they've witnessed, and it's actually become their narrative without them having ever experienced it themselves.
That's really...
And I think that when we to look back at the stories we run around love and relationships, we realize not all of it is ours. And that's really important.
So when you say what we've witnessed, are you talking about a collection of things like the example of your parents or close family friends or friends around you, rom-coms, Disney? Are you talking about a collection of all those things together?
I am. I'm talking about all those things. And then I'm also talking about other people's relationships and how they played out. And, you know, we've always got a friend that goes, yeah, but, you know, I had a friend who had a friend who married this guy and he was really, really lovely at first. And then he cheated on her with 9 women. And you're like, oh, fuck, that's going to happen to me.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
But I do think Hollywood more than anything, and not exclusively Hollywood, I mean BBC and Bollywood and all the other people that make movies, I think, they've played a massive role in it. I mean, I would have to put myself up in one of the top rom-com fans in the world, like obsessed with them.
Yeah. Netflix isn't spitting them out quick enough for me.
Right? What's with that?
Like, where are they? There's no new ones. Yeah.
I know. They've promised one new movie a week in 2021.
Really?
So let's make some of those rom-coms, yeah.
Well, what week are we in now? 2 or 3 of 2021?
I think we're in week 3.
Yeah. I ain't seen no new shit. I ain't seen it. Where are these rom-coms they're talking about? Fucking I haven't seen it. Anywho, okay. So after the crushes, I like to explain teenage relationships as like training wheel relationships where you get to test out your boundaries without the pressure of being a responsible adult, and you get to learn some stuff about yourself and you get to learn what you're attracted to on a base level, like on basic levels. So can you walk me through your experience with training wheel relationships?
Well, my first relationship, I was 17. So, I mean, I think that's late. I don't know if that's late. I feel like it's late. And he ended up being a 3-year relationship. So we met while we were both still in year 12, but it was right at the end of the year. And I guess our relationship really picked up in that first year after school. Sure. Which was interesting because it was navigating adulthood really for the first time. Mm-hmm. We had this freedom we'd never had before. And I think it was really nice to experience it together. That relationship for me, looking back now as a 36-year-old, was the easiest, nicest, most carefree and light relationship I've had. And then it all went downhill from there.
Oh man. Yeah. Isn't that funny? In the show, my cabaret show that this podcast is based on, I do talk about one relationship I had in high school, a relationship I had in my very early 20s, then the longest relationship I had, and then dating stories. And it's interesting that you say it's the lightest and funnest, relationship that you've had, because definitely the one that sat in my early 20s, I felt like he was the only, other than my two high school boyfriends, he was the only like substantial relationship as an adult that I've had that he actually wanted to spend time with me and genuinely wanted to build a life. And I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and I think part of that has to do with social media, because in 2000 and whatever it was, 2005, 6, 7, around there, we didn't have Instagram. Facebook was very, very, very new. Yeah, there was MySpace, but it wasn't a hold on your life like, you know, and then there was MSN chat, but that wasn't like a massive possession.
And it wasn't visual.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a different era. Like in the show I talk about, we walk along the beach at sunset and he used to frame my face with his hands and pretend like to take a photo of me, and he'd be like, oh, this is the perfect light, babe. I wish I had a camera on me. And these days people are like, what do you mean he wishes he had a camera on him? He's got his phone. I'm like, no, this is before. This is before, motherfuckers. This is before. So, what are your thoughts on the way relationships have changed because of social media influences?
Yeah, I think you're bang on. I'd never really thought about it. That first boyfriend and we started dating in 2001. So like, I mean, I don't even think Facebook, I think a friend of mine begged me to let him put me on Facebook. And I think that was 2003 or, I mean, when did Facebook happen? But all that happened was friends went on holidays and you got to see their pictures. That was all Facebook was for, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, I do. I think there was no comparison of what was going on in other people's relationships. There was no sort of like the level that you have to think about how much privacy you have or how much of your intimacy you show in a public domain. I mean, all those things play in now. And I remember when I wonder if it was him. I don't think it was him. It might have been a boyfriend after, when we broke up, and having to say that we were no longer in a relationship on Facebook, change that status. Like, I mean, I would never put my relationship status on Facebook now, but, you know, in my 20s I did. And that the idea of having to tell everybody about it because we were no longer together was just absolutely soul destroying. So I feel like having had sort of an idea of what relationships could be like and feel like before social media came in gives us a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah.
But I really do feel for the teenagers and, you know, early 20s to mid 20-year-olds now who are really in the thick of it. I think it'd be hard to navigate.
And as an ex-teacher, it causes so many problems.
Yeah.
So many problems. Like there's been instances where I've had to mediate with kids in regards to their ex-boyfriends taking screenshots of photos that they've sent and using it as blackmail. Like,
oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So and we didn't have any of that shit when we were, like, there wasn't an easy accessibility of I'll grab my phone and just take a photo. Like there just wasn't that. Like Snake.
Yeah, I was going to say Nokia 3210.
Yeah. That was the thing. Yeah. I kind of look. Obviously, I love the connections through social media, like I made with you through social media. That I think is a gift, and I love the fact that I can pump out my show stuff on there. And even though I'm very, very, very open with my brand and what topics I stick to on my social media, people would be quite surprised, and I'm actually quite private. I just filter exactly what I want and I stick to the theme of my show on my social media. Even though it's quite a personal topic, I'm sure you're quite the same. People assume because we're open with this particular topic that means we're open with fucking everything, whereas that's not the case.
No. I have people all the time making assumptions about my life because of things I don't show. And I just, there's some things I have to keep private. I've been more transparent on social media before, and it made me feel like shit. It was not a good feeling. Yeah. But each to their own. Some people do it and it doesn't affect them. So that's great. Yeah.
Correct. It's interesting what we do put out there. Like, for example, the opening song for this podcast, there's a little tagline at the end where I say, "Oh, I love a good dick." And and it's interesting how the majority of people understand that that's supposed to be entertainment and ha funny. But then there's some people that take that as license to either call me a slut, call me a whore, tell me that, I'm really superficial because all I'm interested in is dick. And I'm like, okay, so you actually haven't listened to the episodes.
People are horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, just to take the time, I can't even begin to understand trolls, but to take the time to send abuse to someone, it's just, who has time to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's feeding a real base, like dark base part of who we are as humans, I think. When people go looking for starting arguments online or looking for, trolling people, that's comes from real insecurity and a real like yucky feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of feelings, something that I love that you talk about in your podcast and in the book that I'm reading of yours, Make It Happen. I love how you talk about the importance of a vibe and feeling someone's energy. I fucking love that. And it articulated for me what I've been struggling to explain to my friends that keep asking me why I'm still single. Yeah. Can you explain to me how you came across, or have you always been someone that deals with feelings and vibes and energy?
In a way, yes, but also very much no. I don't know if there's any astrology fans listening, but I have a lot of air in my chart. So I'm very cerebral. I overthink everything. I have I would much rather think a feeling than feel a feeling. So it's been a conscious effort for me to feel my feelings, but I started doing it because I realized how powerful they were on a vibrational and an energetic level. So I don't know how woo-woo your listenership is, but
you go for it, babe. You go for it.
People know that as spiritual as I can be, I'm also super practical. And I think that's why my books and my podcast has done so well, is because I can marry those two things.
Yes.
So if this feels a little bit spiritual for you, just hear me out. So this idea of feelings changing your vibrational frequency is based on a universal law. So a lot of people have heard about the law of attraction, but this universal law is called the law of vibration. And the law of vibration states that everything in the universe vibrates on its own frequency, and that things with a similar frequency are drawn together. And when it says everything, it means everything. So, you, me, inanimate objects, the fly on the wall, your dog, everything vibrates on its own frequency. And in order to change that vibration, our emotions, which are just energy in motion, is what can really have a profound effect on that frequency. So in terms of manifestation, the idea is if you can start to feel what it's like to have that thing that you desire, that you want to manifest, and have those feelings now before it's even manifested, then you start vibrating on the frequency of that thing you're longing to attract. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to love and dating and relationships, it's like, well, how can I vibrate on my most authentic frequency, not necessarily on the frequency of that guy that's really hot that I want to fall in love with me, but how can I vibrate at my most authentic frequency?
Yeah.
So something that, or someone who's in alignment with me is therefore attracted to me and me to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, can I get you to explain the difference between thinking a feeling and feeling a feeling? Because that's a big shift from reading your book. That's a big shift for me as well, because I'm very much in the head and quite a lot similar to you in regards to analysing. And I think that's a part of creative mindset as well, that we're able to analyse and look at things from different angles. I think that's where that comes in. Yes, that shift to me, and tell me if this is wrong, to me, thinking a feeling is you are playing out the steps in your head on how you'd like that story to go, and feeling a feeling is allowing that feeling to resonate where it is most authentic. Like for me, when I think about how I want to feel in love and I try and feel that feeling and not think it, it resonates in a light, joyful, sparkly place in my chest.
Beautiful.
So is that, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good. So love is a beautiful one, but I think what maybe people will be able to understand a bit better is something like grief or sadness.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you're like, oh, I feel really sad about this thing, and you think that you're thinking I'm really sad and, oh, it's really sad, but the whole time you're trying not to cry and you're suppressing the emotions that flood out when you allow yourself to actually feel sadness. And
Right.
feeling one feeling may bloody unplug a whole host of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're able to feel it, whether it be through crying, or perhaps once you start to feel into sadness, you feel anger and frustration and fear or whatever it might be, then if you can actually feel it in your body, and you'll feel it as a physical sensation, you might feel it in your heart space, whatever it is, if you can allow yourself to feel it, you can actually process that feeling in, like, I think they say 7 minutes.
Oh, whoa.
If you're thinking the feeling and you're suppressing the actual physical sensation of feeling it, that can rotate in your head for your entire lifetime. And when we think the same thought or the same feeling over and over and over again, that's what becomes a belief, whether it's true or not, you know? So it's really important to catch yourself out in those moments and go, you know what, I'm actually just really going to feel into this. And I know that crying is really annoying, and I'm not a crier and I'm not a feeler and I'm a big girl and I can look after myself. But if I just cry now, then it's over with and you feel so much better after. Yeah. But it's a practice thing, you know, you've got to be able to practice it. But in terms of manifestation and love, for example, it's like, okay, so how can I start to feel love in my body now? And that might be recalling a time. So it is cerebral to start, but recalling a time when you felt immense love for someone or something, could be your pet, and really feeling that sensation of loving something so deeply and feeling love in return, and just noticing how that feels in your body. There's a meditation I think I linked to it in Make It Happen, called the High Vibrations Meditation. And it basically takes you through different feelings and different parts of your body and asks you to feel them there. Because I think sometimes when we say, you know, feel love, we all just automatically try and feel it in our heart space. Or, you know, feel fear and we feel it in our gut. But it's like, can you feel fear in the palm of your hand? Or can you feel love, you know, behind your eyeballs? And just really sort of starting to move the energy of the feeling around your body.
That's really important. So with all that in mind, have you evolved with each I know this probably sounds like a stupid question because I feel like I know the answer already, but have you felt like through your discovery on the different parts of the subconscious and the vibrations and your understanding of energy and vibes and whatnot. Yeah. Has that played a part in your relationships? Do you feel like you've gone, okay, first relationship, I got this stuff locked down, and then the next relationship, I've leveled up in this way? Like, has it played a part in that?
The first half of my dating life, no, because I wasn't aware of it. And then I had a really, really long, big, massive, complicated relationship where I kind of started to awaken to what was going on and that I was attracting a very similar person each time. And then, no, I feel like with each relationship, they've all been different and they've all taught me different things. And I don't feel like I've repeated the same mistakes twice. There's more mistakes that come up, not always mine, but I haven't repeated old ones. And I think once you start to bring awareness to them, then you can start to heal what was once maybe an issue and then try and find the new things to deal with.
Yeah, brilliant. So what if though, Jordanna, what if there is no opportunity to try out if you're no longer going to repeat a pattern? Because over the last 5 years, I've been single. I dated somebody on and off for about a year-ish in 2016, 17. But it was very on and off, so, you know. My problem, and I'll make it my problem because because it's like I'm in control of this situation, but I don't seem to get past the first date, and that is 95% been my choice, because in the past I've ignored red flags and gotten into relationships with guys that clearly I should have listened to the red flags early on, and I can spot those red flags now. So then when I go on a date and I stay in my joy and I focus on what value I have and what I know I'm bringing to the table and do my best to get to know that person through that lens, as soon as there's a red flag that I know is going to manifest into something bigger, because you can pick them, I don't give that person another opportunity to redeem themselves.
Yeah. I think I feel you 100%. I'm the same with red flags, and I don't think they should be ignored, but I think we have to prioritize red flags and also how sort of important they are. Like, is it that important, that particular thing that's come up, that's not going to allow you to see them a second time and see them reveal themselves differently? Because I know that I've definitely been on first dates that weren't great and then second dates that were much better. I've also been on first dates that were absolutely incredible and I thought I'd found the love of my life. And then by date 2, they revealed their actual self. And I was like, oh God, no, absolutely not. So
yeah.
I do think we do have to give people an opportunity to reveal themselves, and remember that not everybody is as self-aware as you are or as I am. But in saying that, if self-awareness is high on your value list, which it is on mine, then it is a red flag if they can't see themselves for who they are.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's okay to have high standards. It's okay to be picky, as long as you're aware that to have high standards, you also have to be patient. Yes. You can't be impatient and have high standards.
Hence the 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that. I do think, though, that sometimes we do dismiss people too quickly if they're starting to show signs of a previous partner's qualities that didn't work for us.
Yeah.
And while it is important to see it, it's also important to not judge their qualities based on someone else's experience and allow them to show you what that is. Yeah.
Yeah,
But, you've got to take your own judgment as well.
That's a really good point, and I think that's really difficult for everybody, especially as we age and we've, from mid-30s onwards, everyone's going to have past relationships. So being aware, and look, men and women both do the broad sweep of all women are like this or all men are like this. I've heard it on both sides. I've had to catch myself out sometimes making those generalizations, and for sure when I'm on dates, hearing a guy say that all women are the same and blah 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 blah, it's a real toxic way to look at stuff, and it's a mirror to remind me when I hear guys talk like that. It's a mirror to remind me, okay, that's something that I don't like to hear from them, so I need to make sure that that is not something that I'm projecting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look how self-aware you are.
Only the last year, Jordanna, have I began to be able to separate something that somebody's saying that is about them, but they're saying it, projecting it onto me, but it's actually about them. And then when I'm feeling irritated or whatever it is about their nuances, that's about something I need to work on. I've started to really be able to go, well, actually, that's their fucking problem and this is my fucking problem. Yeah. So that's been really, really helpful. So let's get back into your dating. What is the most significant or biggest or longest or whatever relationship you've had, and what is the best lessons you have learnt from that period of your life?
I don't even know what to say as in the official timeline of it. Yeah. But unofficially it was 12 years.
Wow.
I think officially it was 5.
Sure, I understand.
It was, yeah, it was a very, we met young. I was 20, I must have been 23 and he was 20. No, maybe I was younger. Oh, no, I was 21 and he was 25. So yeah, I was super young. We became obsessed with each other. I think that's probably the best description of it. It was a very karmic relationship, it was very much the chaser and the chasee. And then once he caught me, then he became quite disinterested, and then it became me chasing him. And that went back and forth for 5 years of our relationship, really. And then we broke up. And then there was lots of still being in each other's lives and dating other people and still coming back to each other. It was very messy. It taught me most of my love lessons, to be honest. Right. We had what people would call amazing chemistry. We did. And at the time I thought we were soulmates. So I would keep fighting for it because I was like, I'm never going to find a connection like this again. But the way that it made me feel on a whole was insecure. I had a lack of confidence. I felt like I wasn't enough most of the time. I felt less than, all those things. I mean, they're all just synonyms of each other, really, aren't they? I also, though, had my best friend in him. He was my best friend. He knew me better than anyone. We had a very kind of psychic connection with each other. So when it finally ended, it happened because he eventually got engaged, and that was it for me, because I was like, I can't have this relationship that wasn't even a proper relationship now that he's decided to make this commitment, even though through all the other relationships we'd been seeing each other. And so I just put a real kind of stop to it. And yeah, I mean, that was 2007, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. But it reframed what chemistry means to me. And I think I talk about it in Make It Happen. Chemistry is a lot of the time that the glue that holds you there to learn the lessons that you need to learn. And when that chemistry is drama fueled like ours was, that's not soulmate chemistry. That's learning some hard lessons chemistry.
It's exhausting, man. It's exhausting.
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 Yeah.
Looking back, just hearing what you were saying there, looking back on my experiences with men, I definitely don't know how, and that's why I steer clear of the fixer-uppers and the lost ones, because I've done that. I seem to have gotten into a pattern of I help them find themselves and support them to be their best selves, and once they've got that, they're done with me.
Yeah,
like I've served that purpose, and see you later. Yeah, just hearing you talk about the drama stuff, it's just too exhausting. It's too exhausting.
And I've seen it in girlfriends as well, where relationships end and all they want to do is get them back, and there's this back and forth and on and off, and I just don't think life has to be that complicated.
No.
And my new book, Higher Love, that's what that's about. It's like, instead of falling in love, let's rise to love. Like, there's so much drama that's associated with love, like being crazy in love and madly in love, and, all of these sorts of drama-fueled words that we use to describe it, when really what we want to be feeling is uplifted. Yeah. And we want to be able to stand in the truth of who we are as our most authentic self, and not have to sort of like morph and shift and be who they need us to be in order for them to keep us there, Yeah.
On that beautiful point, do you think then it is possible, if you are with the right person, to continue evolving and finding the best version of yourself with somebody? Because what I'm scared of, Jordanna, is now that I've been single for such a long time, and I've always been one to do inner work. I've always been one to do that. But the last 5 years has really given me the space and permission to take that time to do that. Do you think it is an indicator of the relationship being not right for somebody if there is no space for people to do that?
I mean, I think that comes down to the individual, but for me personally, and I feel for you, if someone wasn't open to my own growth, whether it's spiritual growth or just personal development, or, I mean, I just call it curiosity, right? Like, you just kind of want to know more stuff and expand and evolve and grow. Yes, it wouldn't be right because that's a value of ours.
Yes.
But that might not be a value of somebody else's. I've also seen, I've got a lot of friends who got together when we first left high school and are still married, and they've managed, and I think this is hard, they've managed to evolve and grow together because they've given each other space and they've accepted who the other person has become, where it does happen sometimes in long-term relationships when one person's evolving and growing, or perhaps they both are, but they're moving in different directions. And I think when that happens, then you need to be able to let go and go, it was great when it was great, and now we're different people and we've got to go find different matches.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So the focus is finding out what your value systems are and what the things are that you are not willing to compromise necessarily on.
Yeah, because there's, relationships definitely need compromise, but there are some things that you won't compromise on. And I think if we can work out what our values are, first of all, our personal values just in everyday life, and then our love values, and then work out which ones we're willing to compromise on. I think the most valuable thing you can do, if there's people listening who are looking to find someone and they've heard that wonderful/not wonderful manifestation technique of writing down the traits of your perfect partner.
Yes. Talk about this. Yep.
I absolutely want you to throw that list out. If you do want to write a list, this has been life-changing for me in so many ways. It's writing a list of how you want to feel in love. Not how you want the other person to make you feel, but how you want to feel. And then you take that list and you use it as a barometer in your next dating experience or relationship to say, is this person allowing me to feel these things? Can I radiate all of these beautiful feelings when I'm with this person? And if I can't, is it worth staying with them? Why you give me that face?
I love it. I love it so much. I love that so much. There's often times where I have conversations with people in regards to if you leave a situation with somebody and you feel so exhausted and there was no actual physical, exertion that happened during your exchange with this person, if you leave feeling bloody exhausted, stay the fuck away from that person, because
Absolutely.
for so many reasons that's not right. If you leave, and this is even with friendships, if you leave feeling really uplifted, really happy, feeling like you're in that zone of all your values and feeling like you can be yourself at ease with no issues, that's a good friendship, relationship, whatever. I think that's really important. But I worry, and I know it's none of my business really what other people are doing with their lives, but I really worry that so many people, and this might be a South Australian thing because we're a more conservative state and people get married and have kids younger generally than the rest of Australia. Yeah. So the majority of my friends were all married at around 23 and then they all started having kids at about 26. That's like generally. I feel, and there's so many, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it.
Go on.
The longest relationship I was in, his circle of friends, the boys, I felt very much just went along with what their wives or girlfriends wanted and just did what they thought they should do because they were a part of a certain part of Adelaide where there is expectations of just following what the box is and you need to stay in a certain, parameter. And like the stories that I hear down the grapevine of how they all are in their marriages and shit, they fucking hate each other. They don't like the responsibility of having children. They're always fucking complaining about having kids. I'm like, why did you have them? Yes, sometimes it's going to be a hard day and you're going to be exhausted. But if the default setting when you are asked about your children or you're asked about your wife or husband is a negative response, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I know it, again, none of my business and I'm not in that circle anymore, but I'm passionate about people sticking around just to stick around is such a toxic thing because especially if kids are involved.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's the beginning of love and it's
some people don't I think there's two things at play. I think some people don't think they're worthy of more. They don't think that there's more out there for them, so they do settle for things.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole other group of people that don't want more. That's enough for them, you know? And you probably shouldn't be whinging about your kids because there's some people who are desperate to have them and can't. But, I think that we do again place our own experience on other people and judge them for it when maybe they just don't want more out of life, and that's fine.
But if they don't want more, but if they don't want more though, Jordanna, don't you think they wouldn't be fucking whinging at any opportunity that they get?
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm not a fan of whingers.
Oh, it does my head in. I just worry about the patterns that are being passed on through the generations of seeing mum and dad just settling and putting up with each other and arguing all the fucking time and it being dysfunctional. Okay, mum and dad are still together for 40 years onwards and that's, what love is. And that's such a toxic example. And unless you're aware that that is a pattern that needs to be broken, it'll keep perpetuating itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just infuriates me. It infuriates me for the kids, really. Like, fuck the parents. That's their fault and that's their problem. But because I used to be a teacher, I would be hearing these poor kids, like, it's just not good. Yeah, it's not good. Not good.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Before I love and leave you,
Yeah.
do you have any parting words of wisdom you would like to bestow?
Look, I think that if you are single and you're looking for love and you are looking for a higher love, not just your average settling for something love, I think it's really important that the first thing that you do is start to have a look at yourself. And I don't mean that in the sense of, well, have a look at why you're single, what are you doing wrong? It's just being super hyper aware of who you are and really working on the things that strengthen that vibration we were talking about. So doing more of those things, because when you are in alignment with yourself, when you are being the most authentic version of you, that's when you're naturally going to become a magnet for, yes, people, but also more things that bring you joy. It's like this flow-on effect. And that's the kind of environment that we can start to cultivate a higher love. And it all starts with self-awareness.
Can you tell everybody where they can find you and all your awesome stuff that you're putting out into the world?
Yeah. So best place to follow me on social media is on Instagram, and my handle is @Jordanna Levin. My website is jordannalevin.com. Both of my books, Make It Happen and Higher Love, are available in all good bookstores internationally. The Higher Love podcast is a limited podcast series. It's 10 episodes, so you can binge it. It's all the 10 episodes are already out.
Very
and basically, thank you. It follows the premise of the book, but the book is very much about my personal experiences. What we did with the podcast is I got 3 single women and heard their stories throughout the 10 episodes. So it's really fun. It's easy to listen to. That's it.
Thank you so much for coming on. I've loved having you on, Jordanna. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. This was really, really fun. Really fun format. Love it.
The Catchalorette, with friends near and far, from heartache to catfish and sex toys. The Catchalorette and friends. See you next time, if you dare.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back to the planet at no cost to you, and there's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement. Only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.